The best way for a spy to hide is to look ordinary, unremarkable, but cover can be broken by things that don't quite fit. Hi, I'm Dave Dooling, Education Director at the New Mexico Museum of Space History. Welcome to a mystery from the Space Vault. This was a bit of fun detective work involving hardware donated to the museum by a private collector a few years ago. Most items were easily identified or had ID tags. Not so this little gem. At first, I identified it as the Burner 2 upper stage developed in the 1960s. Nope. A quick web search reminded me that the Burner series used solid rocket motors. These tanks clearly say liquid propellant, most likely hypergolics, a toxic mix. So I looked at the orbital insertion stages for Lunar Orbiter, Mariner Mars, Viking, but none really fit. I was stumped until one day, during a boring Zoom meeting, I picked up a booklet I had acquired years ago as a space reporter. It is a 1982 catalog produced by TRW, the company that built dozens of spacecraft plus hundreds of small rocket engines. It is the Multi-Mission Bipropellant System, or MMBPS. As I guessed, it burned nitrogen tetroxide and hydrazine. These are nitrogen compounds that hold on to oxygen or carbon and hydrogen. They are easy to store for long periods, ignite on contact, and give a decent kick. But how is MMBPS used? The catalog only said injection stage. A web hunt turned up 2 NASA reports where TRW suggested using MMBPS to inject a spacecraft into orbit around Jupiter. The catalog also said that 7 units were built, but when? TRW photographs in the NASA report had serial numbers that ended in 67 and 68, indicating when they were taken. So now I have a time frame, but on what rocket did they fly? Size was the clue. The diameter, 59 inches, matches Agena, the upper stage for more than 360 launches atop Thor, Atlas, and Titan boosters from 1959 to 1987. It's easy to weed out most of the launches. Starting with 1967 leaves 135 Agena launches. 14 were for NASA. 86 were keyhole spy satellites. Others don't fit for various reasons. That left 25 with 5 names: Jumpseat, Quasar, Canyon, and Rhyolite, later changed to Aquacade. Jumpseat and Quasar went into an unusual orbit called Molniya, Russian for lightning. These orbits are lopsided, so they take a long time to arc above the Arctic and move fast as lightning above the Antarctic. Jumpseat, starting in 1971, listened to Soviet military communications and missile and air defense radar. Quasar, the satellite data system, relayed images from spy satellites over Russia to America starting in 1976. But Canyon and Rhyolite launched in the same time frame, 1968 through 78. Which was it? One hint is who built what. Hughes Aircraft is credited with building both Jumpseat and Quasar. Dr. Jonathan McDowell, an X-ray astronomer and space expert, pointed out that Hughes had its own propulsion capability. It would be very odd for them to buy from a competitor. An Air Force photo of Quasar clearly shows 2 thrusters, indicating that Quasar and Jumpseat had a built-in orbital adjust stage. Canyon and Rhyolite went to geostationary orbit, where the 24-hour period keeps them over one spot on the equator. Both came from TRW, the builder of MMBPS. Open sources claim that Canyon stayed attached to its Agena stage for attitude control. That leaves Rhyolite, a name with an extra layer of espionage. Rhyolite reputedly was a modest-sized satellite inside an overly long nose cone. A deployable 60-foot wide antenna is the most common explanation. This is the only known photo of the launch vehicle. A drawing by Ed Kyle of Space Launch Report shows a module, the size of MMBPS, between the Agena and the payload shroud. The Agena stage could start Rhyolite to geostationary orbit. Most launchers finish the job with a solid apogee kick motor that produces several thousand pounds of thrust for up to a minute and a half. The MMBPS engine, though, produces an average 88 pounds of thrust for 2.5 hours at a time. It seems like an odd choice, but the large antenna, still furled but no longer steadied by the launch shroud, may have been too fragile for a stronger, faster kick. Further, with a satellite weighing only 1,500 pounds, an antenna more than half the size of a basketball court will act like a solar sail, slowly pushing the satellite out of position. So MMBPS could also provide gentle corrections. Rhyolite engaged in one of the most secret cloak and no-dagger operations of the Cold War. It eavesdropped on Soviet radio communications. In the 1930s, microwave relay towers started connecting military centers as well as cities. Putting antennas atop towers pushed the horizon further away. But part of the signal will go into space and could be intercepted by Rhyolite. It was like an eavesdropper hiding just around the corner. Rhyolite sent its intercepts to the National Security Agency in Fort Meade, Maryland, by way of the then-secret tracking station at Pine Gap, Australia. It worked quite well until 1977, when a disgruntled TRW clerk and his high school buddy sold spy satellite secrets, including Rhyolite, to the USSR. The story was documented in the book and then dramatized in the movie The Falcon and the Snowman. Their cover was broken when the high school buddy was arrested for littering outside the Soviet embassy in Mexico City. Eavesdropping became more complex. The Rhyolite name appeared in court records and was changed to Aquacade. Eventually, more powerful, sensitive satellites replaced them. 4 Rhyolites launched in 1970, 73, 77, and 78, about right for the number of MMBPS built by TRW and allowing for ground tests, and perhaps a leftover that they wanted to sell to NASA. Or maybe not. This could all be wrong. TRW doesn't say if the 7 units ever flew. They could have been built for a separate program that never got near the launch pad. Whatever purpose MMBPS had, our artifact probably was a development model, eventually sold as surplus and then donated to us. But another 42 engines were built, possibly for other TRW defense satellites. Maybe they'll pop up deeper in our collection. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more stories from the Space Vault, if I make bail.